To me, the best part about traveling is getting the opportunity to try new foods. Eating in another country gives you a glimpse into its culture, history, and way of life. I don't really get why some people avoid unfamiliar dishes and stick to what they already know when they're traveling. It seems like a huge missed opportunity to explore a new culture. Get outside your comfort zone. France in particular is pretty well known for its culinary excellence. From delicate pastries and rich cheeses to perfectly prepared meats and exquisite wines, the French really set the standard for gourmet dining. Having visited Paris twice, with Mark and my parents in 2019 and last year with my sister, I can say with confidence that French food really lives up to the hype. Whether it's a croissant in a quiet cafe or a fine dining experience, it's really hard to find a bad meal in France. In this episode of Design Around the World, we're going to explore the unique contrast and differences between French menu design and American menu design. We'll be unpacking how culture, aesthetics, and dining customs shape menu design and how dining is experienced in these two countries. Now, before we dive in, I know that Paris doesn't represent all of France. From what I've heard, many parts of France are quite different than the capital. What I'm sharing here is based solely on my personal experience, and I do recognize that it might not reflect the entire country. That said, the research that I've gathered thus far, this menu design style seems pretty common across France. So if you live in France or have traveled to different parts of France, let me know in the comments down below. One of the first things that I noticed about French menu design was their limited options. In the US, it's pretty common to see a menu with pages of choices. And sometimes those choices can be pretty overwhelming. Think the Cheesecake Factory's menu or your typical diner. In contrast, almost every restaurant that I visited in France had a menu that was just 1 or 2 pages max. The selections felt more focused and intentionally curated, as if each dish had a purpose. It's a noticeable cultural difference. In the US, we tend to like to have a lot of options, while in France, their focus seems to be quality over quantity. Another big difference I noticed was the use of pictures in menus. In the US, this is a pretty common thing, but in France, I didn't see that at all. After I did a bit of research, I found out that people in France think showing pictures of the food on the menu is kind of tacky, which honestly tracks. It kind of seemed like you were just expected to know what you're ordering. Another major difference between the US and France is how menus handle calorie counts, allergens, and dietary restrictions. In the US, it's pretty standard to see an icon or some sort of label that indicates if a dish is vegan, vegetarian, or gluten-free, for example. Many menus even include calorie counts, and servers will often ask you up front if you have any dietary restrictions and will point to specific menu items if you do. In France, that level of accommodation isn't quite as common. While I did come across a few vegan spots in Paris, most restaurants don't go out of their way to highlight those details. Instead, it's more on the diner to ask questions or make special requests. It's more of a hands-off approach, and it's definitely a cultural contrast when it comes to dining expectations. Another key difference between dining in the US and France is how the food is ordered. In the US, menus are typically divided into appetizers, entrees, and desserts. Each item is priced separately, essentially an a la carte system. Diners aren't expected to order all 3 courses, and typically people will order their main course and maybe an appetizer or a dessert to share with everyone. Often, your main course will come with a starter like a soup or salad, or a side dish like vegetables or rice. In France, many restaurants have a structured 3-course format where you have an appetizer, entree, and dessert. Rather than ordering each item separately, you pay one price for the entire meal. This can be a huge savings for a tourist, so I definitely recommend doing this if you're traveling to France. You'll get a few options to select from in each category, and typically the meal includes fresh baked bread because, well, it's France. In France, mealtimes are embraced as an opportunity to slow down and savor the experience. Dining is not just about eating, it's more of a cultural tradition that spans over several hours. This is a stark contrast to the United States, where meals are often quick and utilitarian. We typically squeeze in eating between work, errands, and other commitments. As a result, French menus often feature a prefix menu that encourage a full multi-course experience. American menus tend to lean more toward the a la carte experience that offer flexibility and faster dining. Now, there are exceptions in both countries. I've been to many places in France that had a la carte options, just like I've been to different restaurants in the US that offer the 3-course meal selection. It really depends on how much you want to spend and what you're looking for in your dining experience. But generally speaking, these patterns reflect cultural differences and how each country approaches food and dining. Another major difference in menu design between France and the United States is how beverages are handled. In the US, free refills on things like soda, juice, coffee, and tea are pretty common, and our portion sizes tend to be pretty large. In contrast, when you order a drink in France, like a soda or a juice, it usually comes in a glass bottle and there's no free refills. Coffee or tea is typically served with dessert, and again, no free refills on that either. Now let's talk about alcohol. In France, having wine with your meal is pretty common because, well, France. Menus will often highlight local wines and offer pairing suggestions. You might find a few beer or cocktail options, but typically those choices are pretty limited compared to what you would see in the US. In the US, alcoholic drink menus can be pretty extensive and diverse. It's not uncommon to see a menu where the beer, wine, and cocktail options exceed the food choices. Bartenders are constantly crafting new drinks or featuring different finds from around the world. For many restaurants in the US, an innovative drink menu is a major draw, so this makes total sense. This is one of the things that I really enjoy about dining in the United States. There's always something new to try, and you're not limited to what's local to your area. The final major difference in menu design that we'll talk about are the way France and US handle children's menus. Kids' menus are a thing in both countries, but the way France handles it is wildly different than how they do it in the United States. In the US, kids' menus tend to revolve around heavily processed, fatty, sugary comfort foods. Think hot dogs, grilled cheese, mac and cheese, chicken fingers. It's as if we assume kids will only eat this type of food, regardless of the nutritional value. In France, kids' menus are typically just smaller portions of adult meals. They're definitely more balanced and include things like vegetables and a wide variety of flavors. French children are encouraged to eat like adults, so there's no dumbing down of their menu. The expectation is that children should develop a palate for real food, not sugary, fatty, over-processed stuff. It's a completely different mindset and one that I personally love. I think one of the major issues in the United States is our general lack of knowledge when it comes to what healthy eating is. There is not enough emphasis on whole foods, balanced meals, or fresh ingredients, and there's even less on actually enjoying the food you eat. Instead, we're constantly bombarded with marketing for over-processed, low-nutrition foods, and it's really taken a toll on our health. This disconnect is especially evident when it comes to kids. The childhood obesity rate in the United States is one of the highest in the world. A big part of that comes down to a poor diet formed early on. When children are regularly fed highly processed, sugary, fatty foods, those habits become deeply ingrained. And it can be really difficult to break those habits as an adult, leading to a lifetime of bad eating and health issues. France has gotten this aspect of menu design right. When it comes to designing kids' menus in the United States, we can definitely take a few cues from France. Encouraging healthier, more balanced meals at a young age gives children more nutritional value, and it encourages an appreciation for real food. In the end, comparing menu design between France and the US reveals much more than just differences in dining options and pricing. French dining embraces quality over quantity, and they encourage diners to embrace eating as more of a social experience. The French foster a sophisticated relationship with food from childhood. American menus reflect our faster-paced, convenience-driven approach, but offer more experimentation and choices. Neither approach is better or worse. It's simply a reflection of our cultural differences and our unique relationship with food. I think we can learn a lot from these contrasts and bring more mindfulness, appreciation, creativity, and experimentation back to our own tables. So whether you're looking at an elegant menu in Paris Paris or flipping through a sprawling American menu with tons of options. Remember that every meal is an opportunity to connect with your loved ones and celebrate the rich diversity of food. Thanks for watching.